The restaurant was silent, except for the faint sound of rain tapping on the windowpane. Inside, surrounded by soft candlelight and whispered laughter, a man sat alone at the corner table, his posture sharp, his face expressionless. Ethan Cole. To the world, he was the definition of success. A self-made millionaire CEO who turned his small tech startup into an empire. He had everything: money, power, respect. Yet, what the world didn't see was the loneliness behind his cold eyes. Ethan had built walls around his heart so high that no one dared to climb them. It wasn't always like this. Years ago, he had loved once, deeply. But betrayal had changed him. His fiancée had chosen wealth over love, leaving him broken and cynical. Since then, every relationship had been transactional, brief, and empty. So when his best friend and assistant, Ryan, insisted he go on one last blind date, Ethan almost laughed. "You know how these things end," he said flatly. "Another gold digger with a fake smile." Ryan only shrugged. "Just try once more. Maybe not everyone wants your money." Ethan sighed, checking his watch. "Fine. One last time." She was late. He had been waiting for 20 minutes, and the rain outside grew heavier. Just as he was about to leave, the door swung open, and a young woman stumbled in, drenched from head to toe, clutching a worn-out umbrella that refused to close. Her hair stuck to her cheeks, her clothes were soaked, and yet, she smiled. Not a rehearsed, charming smile, but one of genuine warmth. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly, approaching the table. "The bus broke down, and I ran here as fast as I could." He frowned slightly. "You ran? In this rain?" She nodded, laughing softly. "I didn't want to make a bad impression." For reasons he couldn't explain, that laugh softened something inside him. She wasn't dressed in designer clothes, nor did she wear heavy makeup. Her hands were trembling slightly, her nails unpolished, and yet, she radiated something he hadn't felt in years: sincerity. Her name was Lily Hart. She worked as a nurse at a children's hospital and lived in a small apartment with her younger brother, who she cared for after their parents passed away. Unlike the women Ethan was used to, Lily didn't talk about herself to impress him. Instead, she asked about him, not the CEO version of him, but the person underneath. And for the first time in years, Ethan found himself talking. Not about profits or board meetings, but about music, books, and childhood memories. She listened, really listened. Hours passed unnoticed until the restaurant was nearly empty. As they stepped outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement, and Ethan did something he hadn't done in years: he smiled. The challenges begin. But life is never as simple as one magical night. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Lily met often. Coffee shops, walks in the park, quiet dinners at her favorite small diner. Slowly, his world began to change. The walls he'd built around himself started to crack. Yet, the more he opened his heart, the more fear crept in. Ethan's business partners began whispering. "She's not one of us," they sneered. "She's after your money." Even Ryan warned him, "Ethan, people will talk. Be careful." And then came the media. Paparazzi photos of Lily leaving his office. Headlines screaming, "Mystery woman in CEO's life, gold digger or true love." It broke her. Lily didn't care about his wealth, but she couldn't bear the cruelty of his world. She stopped answering his calls, avoiding him for days until Ethan showed up at the hospital one night, exhausted and desperate. She was sitting outside the emergency ward, her eyes swollen from tears. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Your world isn't made for someone like me." He knelt beside her, ignoring the curious stares. "My world was empty. Before you. Don't walk away." But she shook her head. "You don't understand, Ethan. I'm not running from you, I'm protecting what's left of me." And just like that, she was gone. The turning point. Days turned into weeks. Ethan buried himself in work again, but nothing felt right. The office felt colder, his penthouse emptier. He realized that the money he thought gave him power now only reminded him of what he had lost. Then, one afternoon, he saw the news. A story about the hospital, how a local nurse had organized a charity fundraiser to save the children's wing from closure. There she was, Lily, standing on a small stage, smiling as she spoke to the crowd, surrounded by kids who adored her. Without a second thought, Ethan drove there. When he arrived, she looked shocked to see him. The crowd cheered as he took the microphone. "You said I didn't understand your world," he began softly. "Maybe I didn't. But I want to. Because wherever you are, that's where I want to be." He announced a donation large enough to save the entire wing, but he looked straight at her as he said, "This isn't charity. This is me learning what really matters." Tears filled her eyes. "You didn't have to do that." "I didn't do it for them," he replied. "I did it for us." Resolution and new beginning. From that day forward, their lives intertwined. Lily continued her work, refusing to quit her nursing job despite his wealth. Ethan learned to slow down, to find meaning not in profits but in people. He began volunteering at the hospital, reading stories to sick children. For the first time, the cold millionaire smiled not because of success, but because of love. Months later, as they walked through the hospital garden, Ethan took her hand. "You know," he said softly, "that blind date wasn't the end of something, it was the start of everything." Lily smiled through tears. "You didn't need to change your world for me, Ethan. You just needed to open your heart." He kissed her forehead, whispering, "You did that the moment you walked in soaking wet." Final message. Love doesn't always arrive with perfection, it shows up in moments we least expect, through people who teach us how to feel again. Ethan learned that even the coldest heart can find warmth when touched by kindness. And Lily proved that love isn't measured by wealth, but by the courage to care when no one else does. Speech Balloon, tell us in the comments, would you give love a second chance if it meant changing everything you thought you knew? Thumbs up, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Be Kind Always for more inspiring and emotional stories that touch the heart.